All right, we are talking 21-6A with Dave Campbell, Texas high school football analyst Matt Stepp. Is there much to analyze in this deal? Because Rick Lefebvre's, he don't want to coach if he's not going to win district titles, and that's what he does in this district. And you look at the talent they have on that squad, and yeah, you're going to lose Austin Carlisle. You're going to lose the receiver, but there's guys always to plug in there. Is it theirs to lose yet again?
Absolutely. I'm going to say this about Ridge Point, and this might be a little surprising for it.
Okay.
I think Ridge Point is a sleeper to make the state championship game.
Oh yeah. Okay.
They are loaded.
I was ready for you to say a sleeper to win the district title.
No, they're not a sleeper. They're the favorites to win the district title.
Okay.
This might be yes, they lose Austin Carlisle, but top to bottom, I think this might be Ridge Point's best team they've ever had. They are absolutely loaded at every level. I think they'll have a quarterback. They've got a battle going on, but I believe that they've got a guy. They'll have a guy that's very capable of running the offense. Whoever wins that battle, they are loaded up front on the offensive and defensive lines. They're always going to have good skill position talent, in my opinion. With the Atascocita and North Shore, maybe not quite be, and we'll talk about them later on. Maybe not quite being as loaded as they have been. This might be the year Ridge Point breaks through. They are absolutely loaded, and I love this Panthers ball club. I think they are the clear favorite in this district, and I think they are among the top 10 teams in the state of Texas.
Do you feel like with them, is it a mental block thing to get past a couple rounds or not, because of the fact that usually when they get to the third round, they're facing a team from 23-6A or something like that, and they're just outmanned, so it's not a mental block. They just – like a Atascocita, we talked about, that's a mental block when it comes to North Shore. They just can't get – is that –
I don't know. I mean, last year you look at the North Shore game, and they got off to such a bad start early in that game. They were in a 21-0 hole, 10 minutes into the game. And the last three quarters, they kind of went toe-to-toe with North Shore. And North Shore wasn't ahead to the point where they had to kind of take their foot off the gas. So I think they've run into some, they did beat Atascocita in 2020 during that year, but they've just run into really good teams in the playoffs. So I don't know if it's a mental block. I don't think this year it's going to be a talent issue. I think you can make a case the teams when Ridge Point's lost in the playoffs, they've lost to teams who I think just had more talent or better. I don't know if that's going to be the case this year. I think Ridge Point is going to be as talented or more talented than anyone else in Region 3. So this year, if they don't get it done this year, maybe I think you can make that case. But this Ridge Point team, I'm excited about them. I think they have a chance to make some big-time noise this year.
Does their non-conference, which I'm looking at now, which is Clear Springs, Fulshire, and Bridgeland, does that give them enough? Because I don't know how much they're going to get in district play. Does that give them enough to build on for that playoff run?
That's a good question. I think the Bridgeland game will be the big test. I went to that game last year. It was a good ball game. Ridge Point knocked them off after losing to Fulshire. I think last year it was probably a tougher schedule. I think Fulshire's taking a step back. They're still going to be good. Clear Springs is always solid down there in 24-6A down in Galveston County. I think Bridgeland's still going to be really good. So I think it's I think it's a fair question. I think it's a good non-district schedule. It's not a loaded elite. There's been years Ridge Point played. They had a home-and-home with Austin Westlake not too long ago. Now Westlake's playing Atascocita. So I think it's a good non-district schedule. I think it can prepare them, and you would at least have that one game in district play that's really good, which is against the Hightower Hurricanes, who I think will be Ridge Point's chief challenger. But they've got some I talked to Cornelius Anthony a couple of weeks ago out at a 7-on-7 tournament, and I think offensively Hightower is going to be fine. They bring back enough. They bring back 7 starters. Defensively is where Hightower, I think, has the question marks. They're going to be very young on that side of the ball, very talented, but they're going to need some young guys to step up. But offensively, Kylan Davis, Madden Montgomery, Kentrell Mosley, they've got the playmakers on the offensive side of the ball to be dangerous. I think it's going to be the defense. They do bring back Devin Phillip and Chris Carroll, who I think are 2 stalwarts on the defensive front, but the linebackers and secondary are going to be very young. But Hightower's never not talented. They're going to have talented young guys to step in there. JD was 10-0 last year, so this is a group that Coach Anthony said has been winners all the way up through middle school. So, and they qualified for state 7-on-7 first go round. So it's not like they didn't get it done at least in the 7-on-7 setting. So I think Hightower, despite the youth on the defensive side of the ball, is still a clear number 2 pick behind Rich Point.
When you talk about playmakers and maybe even momentum, but you got to talk about Elkins. They still have Tyson Kraft coming back, and they're building off of that remarkable win, I say, against Shadow Creek.
Tyson Kraft, Saxon Gumabong is an outstanding wide receiver. I mean, that guy had 9 touchdown catches last year, was tremendous. You mentioned Tyson Kraft, the first team All-District pick as a sophomore. Definitely a big hole to fill at quarterback, but they've got some momentum coming off that huge first-round upset of Manville last year. Trey Grimes has done a nice job kind of reestablishing Elkins as a contender. So they've got some questions, but I think the momentum coming off last year should make Knights fans really excited. Again, the big question is going to be, how do they replace Roman Seymour, who transferred over to Rich Point? So that's going to be the big question there for the Knights going into 2025.
That's got to be a body blow. Heck, that was a body blow to me. I got no alliance to Elkins just taking that shot from you.
Well, remember I said Rich Point's going to have a quarterback battle. Roman Seymour is one of the guys that's involved in the battle. Yes,
I got you. And he was on all district squad as well. Maybe we have a clear number 1, a clear number 2. Dissect this rest of the district. Who might be fighting for the last 2 playoff spots?
We talked about Elkins. I think Travis, who was 3rd last year, is going to be in the mix as well. They were fairly young last year, and they were able to get into the playoffs. They've got a veteran group of skill players coming back. They got to replace 4 out of 5 offensive linemen. That's going to be the big question mark for Trey Systems Ball Club. But they've got a veteran group of skill talent. I love that defensive back Davis Kinney, all-state candidate. He had 7 interceptions last year. He had 5 return touchdowns on the defensive side of the ball and in the kicking game. So a lot of talent there at Travis. Trey Herman's done a good job at Fort Bend Austin, kind of getting them. They've kind of made that jump. They were 5-5 in 2023. They were 4-6 last year. So they've made the move from the bottom of the district standings into the middle, that kind of middle pack. The question for them is going to be, can they get over the hump and get into the playoffs? They've kind of been knocked on the door the last 2 years, but it'll be interesting. Now, they do have a 3-year starter at quarterback, Cohen Herman. That name rings the bell. Yes, he is the head coach's son. So anytime you have a coach's kid at quarterback who's got experience, that's a good thing. They've got Mo Poco out at wide receiver, who's a big target on the outside. So I think Fort Bend Austin, I think you're looking at the last 2 spots really coming down to Austin, Elkins, and Travis. I think that you're going to have a 3-way kind of fight for that those final 2 playoff spots. I think Fort Bend Bush, obviously last year dealing with the death of Coach Alan Aldridge early in the year was a tough thing. Colonius McNeil comes in from Hightower. He was an assistant there at Hightower. I think Bush will be better. I think just because, they just had to deal with a lot last year. And I think just having a year of hopeful stability. They bring a lot of guys back, 15 starters. I expect Bush to be improved, but I don't know if they'll be ready for the playoffs yet. And then you got Dulles and Clemens kind of fighting it out there at the bottom of the district. I do think Clemens will be much better this year. They bring 17 starters back, including 10 on defense. I do expect Clemens to be better. Don't think they're ready to contend for a playoff spot, but I do believe Coach Bobby Darnell's squad will be much improved.
So what are we thinking about 1 through 8 in this district?
Let's go Rich Point 1, Hightower 2. I'm going to go Travis 3. I'm going to go Austin to get past Elkins for the 4th spot. Elkins 5, Bush 6, Clemens 7, and Dulles 8.
Gotcha. Then the added little caveat there, my man says Rich Point might be a state title contender or a state title game contender.
I think they are a contender, a legit Region 3 contender, and a legit contender to make it to Arlington, yes.
We need to pull this little segment out, put it out there, let people know, man. We can see this thing can go viral. Matt Stepp making some early June decisions. All right, buddy boy, we're talking 22-6A, and I got some thoughts on some teams over there next week.
We'll see you.